So I can say we're live. Welcome to my friend and co-host Simon from the UK.
And back. Yes.
Yeah,
Look, look
we
how
were
many
talking
shows you've been
about
doing in
you.
the interim. Well done. It's
Yeah,
having
we,
a
we,
packed program tonight. It's like the
we,
BBC.
yeah, we were talking about you on my earlier stream,
In a
in a
nice
nice
way, I
way.
hope.
Yeah, in a nice way. It was good because Ben was on,
Yeah.
and I hadn't seen Ben for a while, so he jumped in, and Quentin James and a couple of other guys, and we were
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
positive effects of social media, and it's interesting because I made this comment. I said when you talk about friends, okay, so you talk about your neighbours, you talk about your work colleagues, you talk about the people you might go to church or worship with. But oh shit, I've got another category of friends. I've got my social
Cool.
media
Internet
friends.
friends. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just. Have you never had? I can remember, and my daughter does this as well. That particularly that I had when I was young. Less so now because I have to work and look after children, so I've got no friends at all. But in my youth, I would have about three different sets of friends, and the only touching point between them was me, pretty
Sure.
much.
Sure.
Mostly. So I had my old group of school friends that I hung out with a lot. Still do occasionally, and I also had my Bristol musician friends that I hung out with, and the two things did not really cross over. So you're right now, I've got my physical friends, people I see, outside, and then I've got you guys, which is great fun, and coming on and, saving my typing fingers is great.
Oh,
So I agree that there's, that this thing is, I think is actually quite important, especially right now. People get in the chat, come on, and do some stuff. It's great, I think, don't you? As I say, you get a
um,
chance to have a proper chat with Johnny Bean, and
look, I think at the end of the day, for me, without sounding nerdy,
is it?
um,
Look, I think at the
I,
end of the day, for
my
me, without
my internet friends, my social media friends, in a lot of respects, Simon, have more appeal to me as an individual because I'm friends with them solely because of one or two aspects of my life. Music is a big part of my life, Simon. If I
yeah.
didn't have music, so I'm friends with you. I'm friends with Carl. I'm friends with Arvin, who's just popped up in the chat here.
Yep.
We're all
Hey,
friends
Alvin.
because we all share the same type of love and like of music. So
Music, yeah.
um, I like that. When you go to work, unfortunately, the human being, the real human being in front of you or around you or next to you, you may not
he's
like,
That's right.
but
He's not.
yeah,
Well, you may like, but he's not necessarily that, is he? He's not.
no,
Although although do you notice this? I know because I obviously work in a big organisation. The government department I work in has 22,000 people in it, all over the country. And I was yesterday. I was went back to work yesterday, first day this week, and I was joshing about with my old boss. He's sort of my boss's counterpart in the north, Stuart, because I said because he rang me while I was on the phone to somebody else. You've got those Apple. When somebody calls you, you can just send them you just press message and it'll send them an automated message. Well,
sure.
he's like hilarious. So I sent him. I rang him. Can I call you? And he sends back a text saying maybe. Right, so it's like you can't do that. So anyway, so I ring him up. Eventually, we have a laugh at it, and he goes, "Oh, hang on a minute. I've just got to move this Fender Mustang I've got propping open the door." I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Yeah, listen to this." So he gets a guitar out, plugs it, and starts playing this Fender Mustang.
Awesome.
So I then
Awesome.
go. So I then go off, and on my phone, I did a little 20-second film of just me playing some chords on on my Fender.
Have you got it there?
Which I sent to him. I have, yeah. Hold on. See which I sent to him. Yeah, let's see what she's going to do. Oh, won't be. Are you going to work? Or are you going to work? I don't know. No, it's not going to work on there. But yeah, so I sent him this. I sent him this thing. So we're having to talk about that. It's like quite funny. But yeah, so you never know. That's what I find is you never know who plays music. Yeah, it's interesting. Hold on, I'll find it on here because it'd be easier. Here we are. There we go. Why aren't you coming out? That's why.
Awesome.
See, that sounds all right, doesn't it?
That sounds not bad at all.
And I think that's because, in a sense, I've played it, well, given what we were talking about just now, that I played it on a, I've used the phone, which is the correct medium to record something for YouTube. So, in effect, the phone does the sort of work, but in a different and probably a better way than YouTube does. Yeah, compressing it and kind of changing, making it so that it's, it can take the sound of it, obviously through its own microphone and stuff. So it does the work, but actually it does it in a more sophisticated way than YouTube does, which is not sophisticated at all.
Well, so Arvin, I was just telling Simon just before we went on air, you know how I was playing my Music Man before I spoke, and it sounded pretty good. What I was playing sounded pretty good through my earphones. And when I went and listened to it on playback, you could hear the sweep of the chorus, and it just sounded horrible. It just, so I re-edited the video, not because I'm vain or anything like that, but it just sounded bad. It was just, and if it was because I was a bad player and my amp settings were bad, well, I would accept that. But what it has highlighted for me, and we hear about other people saying this about the compression and about the sound of YouTube, I've experienced it. That setting that I had on my Yamaha didn't sound anything like on playback.
No.
So,
no, and I think that's. But I think, as I say, that you might, if you're a sort of pro, interesting. I mean, the person to talk to about is Johnny, because Johnny sounds really good when he plays.
Well, he's been doing that for years, though.
I know, and he's got the Johnny beam, which I'm sure is a kind of Heath Robinson piece of sellotape cables and string and something in here and something in there to make it. But yeah, he sounds really good when he plays, and
yeah, well, he said this time last year. I remember when he was doing his April Vader vlog. I remember him, and it didn't ring through to me at the time, Simon. But he said what he was playing through YouTube didn't sound. It sounds good on YouTube, but it doesn't sound that great when he's playing it live. But he tweaks.
Ah, right, okay, tweaks it so that and test it. So okay, yeah.
And I heard that, but didn't understand that, So because normally, you and I are guitar players. Arvin's a guitar player. We play to hear through the ambience of the room. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. Bit of natural reverb and stuff. No, completely. And I think one of the great things is that is getting a sound with just you playing into the amp. How do I sound good just with that? Never mind the stuff in the middle.
Clean.
Clean.
You got to be clean.
I just play clean. Well, like that was the sound of me playing my Fender. Straight into the amp. No, it doesn't sound quite the same. It loses some of the bass on it. But actually, that didn't sound too bad. And I thought that's all right. No. And sounds Fendery, which is the main thing.
Yep.
And so I. But I'm conscious that in the room it does sound different to that, but not too different. And as I say, I think that's because the phone is doing the work, and actually that makes it more acceptable to YouTube. So when YouTube play, that's what YouTube will play. That much more that sound. And as I say,
so all these engineers and all these other guitar players out there that sound really good on YouTube, Simon, have probably got a program and edited and have these settings to make it sound good on YouTube, and it probably doesn't sound.
It'd be really interesting to know if someone like Pete Thorne, for instance,
Well, yeah.
does it sound that great in the studio? I mean, because Pete's at the other end of the scale. He's got the gear. He's got a lot of gear.
Can you ask him that question? Because you're in his chat often, eh? And what about Shane? Because Shane always sounds really good from In the Blues. And those guys from Anderton always sound really good.
Yeah. I think the Anderton thing is, that they sound good because they have, they've got an editing suite, and they've got, and my assumption is that Rabea sounds fantastic. And if you've watched, he's done live streams the last couple of weeks. He sounds fantastic because he's got this Apollo, whatever thing. That's so good.
I want that. I want that Apollo and that Luna mixing. Oh, but I have to buy a.
I tell you, sorry.
I have to buy a Mac.
Me and do you know BV Ninja?
Yes.
BV Ninja. Well, BV Ninja moderates on quite a lot of shows. That pedal show he moderates on the money. So he and I, for something, I can't remember what day it was last week. Maybe Sunday or something. Sunday, possibly. We were watching Henning. HP42. Henning Foley.
Yeah.
He was right. This is I'm gonna get Luna out of the box, set it up, and see if I can make it work.
Yeah.
And he was having a hell of a time trying to make this fake Luna work, because it obviously has some things that it does, ways that it does things. There's something called remember, I've never seen it. So he's something called a console that you have to set up. And do you think Henning could set up the outputs on it? And then he's like, "Oh, this is rubbish. I can't do anything." And BB Ninja keeps typing in, "You need to go to the console and do this."
Yes.
And then he did it about 3 times because he's not a moderator, Henning. And it's like, Henning, BB he knows how to make it work. It's like really funny. He just ignored him completely. It's like, and he had this other guy off from America who was getting slightly confused, like he was. It was quite funny. But
I'd love it.
Yeah, but you watch it. It's on Henning's thing. It's on Sunday, probably. You want to watch it just to give yourself a laugh,
Yeah, I might get something like that. If I get something like that before the end of the year, Simon, I'll let you know. But the only problem is, though, if I did that, I'd have to buy a laptop. I'd have to buy a Mac.
You would, yeah.
Yes, because
do you have to buy? Or does it only work with a Mac? Does it?
It only works with the Thunderbolt connection. You need the Thunderbolt.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You need the Thunderbolt.
Yes. Thunderbolt off PC. There's not enough power, and that's one of their little
that's weird.
their own. Their little. There's no USB that's got enough power to run it.
Audio Apollo Twin.
I think some people they sound really good on YouTube. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
that's true, Arvin, and I think that in the past people have sort of got. I mean, it's quite difficult if you're doing a demo of something. And I'd be doing this too. There's no criticism from Mount Moral High Ground here. That if you're doing a demonstration of a pedal or a guitar or an amp, whatever, you want it to sound okay. So what you do is you record it, and then you if you think, God, that just sounds terrible. I mean, the trouble is, it's not that it sounds terrible. It says it sounds terrible on YouTube.
Yes.
And there's your problem. It's like it doesn't sound terrible in the room. It sounds great in the room, but I put it on YouTube, and as you just said, and it sounds like a bunch of junk. And then what do you do? So then you go back and you post-edit it, so it sounds good on YouTube. But then the question is, that sounds like what it sounds like in the room, but actually you've had to twiddle and cheat. Is that cheating or is that not? You see, my answer to that is probably not. If you're trying to get a sound that's true to what you heard, then I think that's fine. I think if you've taken something junky and trying to make it sound fantastic, then I think that's not good. But Great Vanzini, how you doing?
Hey, Great Vanzini.
Good evening. Yes. So I think that that there's a and I think some channels have been called out for that, haven't they? I think Andertons have a bit. In the past they got called out a bit for that. Post editing. And I went. Now you just said that. Now you wonder, are they just probably they're post editing so that it sounds like what it sounded like when they recorded it, but doesn't sound like it on YouTube.
Yeah. But I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't consider that cheating, Simon, because for example, let's be in Anderson's camp for a second, and because we admire them and they do pretty good, and their demos are bloody good, probably one of the best demo guys out there. So they're in the market, Simon, of what? Selling amplifiers and guitars, and they want. They want it to. They want Simon to go. Oh shit! That Telecaster sounds really.
Yeah.
Wow! I want that.
Well, completely, and all of that, you completely want people to, because you're a shop. Let's be fair, they're a shop. It's but I think that YouTube is a funny old world, isn't it? If people can find something to stick on you for doing something terrible, like it's akin with mass murder or something. You find that that interestingly that what you've highlighted is that obviously the great dichotomy that all those people have, Pete Thorne and all those guys, and I think one of the ways probably Pete gets around it a bit is by going, well, I'm playing it in a produced track. Therefore, it's quite clear that I'm producing a 1.5 minute song or whatever it is to, it's Great Vanzini. They are probably using, they separate the sound from the cameras and stuff, and then put it back together. And I can't see anything. I don't feel terrible about that because for me. You listen to something. If you listen to something on YouTube, it will give you a rough idea about what it sounds like. But really, you should go and play it in a shop. Shouldn't you? You should go and test it out, unless you can't possibly. But
well, you and I have mentioned this before. I trust the guys at Andertons. If they're going to play a Les Paul through a 62 reissue Marshall.
Yeah,
I'm going to trust them to say that it sounds pretty good, Simon. And whatever they are recording and sending out on YouTube, I'm pretty sure that they will make sure that they are trying to get the best that amp. Look.
But if you're playing through 72 Marshall, whatever you're recording on, you're already in a world that I don't inhabit. It's Pete's. I've got Pete's fantastic. I love Pete, but he's playing through his. What it doesn't matter what he's recording it on. He's still playing a 72 Marshall. I don't have a 72 Marshall, and not much prospect of getting one. So you're kind of going, well, But my point about that is that that's got nothing to do with technology. That's you start off with a 72 Marshall. Well,
that's right.
Got one of those. So therefore, you're already going.
Yeah.
He's playing whatever through something that I don't have. Therefore, the sound is going to be different. And unless and you can't do this. But unless Pete, can you play it through my 1994 PV Delta Blues, please, so I can hear what it says like. Personalized demos. It's just not possible. So you play with the things that you got and the things that you think sound good.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about that, see this amp here, my 68, my Vibrolux.
Mm-hmm.
Through this here, through my box and my monitors, sounds, and I won't swear, freaking awesome, Simon. you know, when I crank it up to 10, oh my gosh, it sounds freaking good. This Origin 50s head that I got last year,
Yeah.
no matter what setting I use in the aux box, what cabinet I use, just doesn't sound like any of the demos on YouTube. All the demos on YouTube make those bloody Origins sound great. Even Hack says it sounds great. But this
Yeah, even Hack.
yes. but I can't get this sounding anything like anything I hear.
That's interesting. So, as far as you're concerned, for your ears, it has a kind of unique sound that you haven't heard on YouTube.
Nothing. In fact, Simon, I'm probably going to get rid of it.
Can you make the Fender through the aux box sound more like the Marshall than the Marshall?
Yes.
That's funny. That is. yeah.
I think
really
I'll get rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't. That's really interesting. You cannot make it work.
Simon, I've spent hours.
Is it a volume thing? Is it a? What if you crank it up? Does it still sound horrible? Does it?
And I've tried all the different cabinets because this thing here is great for the cabinet. You know, they've got 5 different Marshall cabinet. They've got all these cabinets, Simon.
Yeah.
But I can't. What I need to do is I probably need someone to come in here, put their ass here where I am, and I need to get Carl here probably, and get another set of ears and because what I'm trying to get out of this, I'm trying to get that Marshall Blues Breakers early cream sound.
Will it do that?
Yeah, because there's 20 videos on YouTube with guys.
It will do it, but you can't. So what you're telling us is operator error.
Well, like I say, I think I'm probably going to have to get Carl in here.
Do you see that Arvin says, Simon, you're looking for a new amp, aren't you? Lol. Andrew might have one.
No, I think
$3,000 shipping costs across the world.
No, I'll probably have to get, and I might do. Actually, that might be something we can record. I'll get him in here, and because he knows he's got a very good ear. His ear is outstanding. So he's good. So I might have to get him and say, mate, make this work. You tweak, and then I'll just jump in and actually, that sounds pretty good, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I've not played a Marshall. Funny enough, I have played a Marshall a bit. And one of my old bandmates, Ian, he had a Marshall to start with, a little, combo, which I never really liked. I never really liked the sound of it. So I didn't go down that route. But I had that high watt 100 watt, which must have been, I suppose, I don't know whether high watts are that close. I think come from Origin, but I don't know if it was that close to a Marshall. But and then I've gone down the PV, which is a bit more the Fender route, although it doesn't sound like a blooming Fender that much. It doesn't have that kind of hollow mids bit that Fenders tend to have. Some of them ones I've played.
Well, can I ask this question? And I'm being serious when I ask this, because I think we have to tip our hats as guitar players sometimes. You know how Slash said that he tried to play a Strat through a Marshall and it didn't work for him.
No.
It didn't work. The only thing that worked for him was playing a Gibson through a Marshall. But he tried and tried, and we all know that there's this music mojo going on, Simon. The music mojo monster.
Yeah.
Does all this music mojo stuff. So it could be that I'm just not a Marshall guy, Simon.
It could be that you're not. No, and you don't. And I've heard this quite a lot, that Marshalls on their own sound a bit you know, you put them in a band mix and they sound a lot better, you know, because they. But yeah, I don't. You know, as I say, I've not played enough Marshalls to know really. I mean, as I say, Hack likes his, but mind you, he's playing a Les Paul through a Marshall, isn't he, Mr. Les Paul?
Yeah.
At least that.
Well,
Did you
I'm
try?
playing
You
my
tried
Les
the Les
Paul.
Paul? What is it? What is it? Kind of like so trebly, thin and trebly. Okay.
You know what I might. I'll yeah.
I don't know if you could describe it as a
Yeah, I can't
describing
describe.
sound.
It's just not. It's not what I'm hearing. So, but Great Vanzini, don't take my word at it, because all the videos I've seen of the Origin amps on YouTube, 90% of them are very good.
What, including Hack, who definitely hasn't been paid by Marshall to say so.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. It might just be that I'm not a. I do know one thing though, Simon. I spoke to the manager of the Rock Shop a couple of days ago, and they're getting a Marshall Blues Breaker combo into their shop
Cool.
when the lockdown finishes. So I'm going to take my guitar in, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to see what I get when I play that. Because that's going to define whether or not I am a Marshall guy or not.
Or a Les Paul Marshall guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that the key thing you said about Slash there was, you know, he couldn't do the Strat through the Marshall. He could do the Les Paul through the Marshall, but not the Strat somehow. And I think that's right, isn't it? You know, we've all got a sound in our heads that appeals to us of what we like. You know, I mean, I'm terrible. I've got these bloody PV Delta Blues with a 15-inch speaker. You know, nothing else has a 15, so it gives it a particular sound that is. What I've discovered recently is not particularly Fendery, oddly.
So why did Jimi Hendrix sound so good through a Marshall then? The Mojo Music Monster fingers.
Right now, some of it must be. You know, I mean,
yeah, sure.
You know, and but I think those players
he fiddled around with the trebles or something. You know,
turn it up to 7 and kind of, you know, put everything on. You know, probably. I mean, you could probably look up Jimi Hendrix's, you know, his settings and see what he played. You know, he also had the wah and the fuzz, didn't he? Kind of thing.
Well, does anybody know what Jim? Really? You know.
Well, but you know. Some of it's about must be, you know, because we know this, don't we? The Mojo Monsters. Yeah, but you know that if David Gilmour picks up a £50 Strat, you know, he's still going to sound like David bloody Gilmour. Boo hiss. You know, I'm never going to sound like him. If you give me a custom shop and you know the best kit, you know,
and a 10 grand Marshall,
you know, never going to sound like that. You know, whatever it is, but. Which I do find interesting, you know, that there is something in this, you know, the Mojo thing about the person who's playing it has something, but, you know, and understands. But I think, you know, Hendrix, you know, and I think, you know, he was really good sort of technician, if you like. Yeah. I'm sure that he, through years of playing through Fenders and everything, all those club gigs he did on the Chitlin circuit and all of that stuff, that stuff taught him how to get a sound out of lots of things, you know, lots and lots of things, in a way that maybe, you know, that you know, in that kind of thing. If you played hundreds of amps and hundreds of things, you know, you get to know how to get a decent sound out of, you know, and Talk of the Devil appearing in the chat. It's the Mighty Guitar Hack. How you doing?
Oh wow!
We were just talking about your guitar hack.
The Mojo Monsters woke heck up.
Yeah, the Mojo Monsters arrived.
Yeah.
Which oh look, there you are. Look, Great Mazzini says the guy on Hack Show earlier somebody called Bart, anyway, was talking about a single mod that helps the Origin tremendously.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay, so
Heck,
I'm
have you had your Origins Marshall modded in any way?
see, Hack, I was just saying to the guys in the chat and Simon quickly, I was saying my Oxbox and my Vibrolux sound really good. When I crank it up, I can get some good tones. When I crank or do anything with this Origin 50 head through my Oxbox and all the different cabinets, I'm not hearing anything that I'm hearing on the YouTube channels which review the Marshall Origin, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm not getting the sound back. So I'm asking the guys in the chat, what am I doing wrong?
He's saying, Hack, that you're editing your sound samples so they sound better than that's funny, but it's interesting. So, what do you do, Hack? Because Andrew can't do it, and we were just talking about the Mojo Monster.
I'm not getting that early cream sound, and I'm playing through my Les Paul. I'm not getting that JTM 45 sound that a lot of guys say that they get. Is it because I'm not playing it through a cabinet?
That's interesting. Because you're playing it through the Oxbox into the
into
software.
my monitors.
So are you saying you haven't played it through a cab?
No.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Fine. So, So at some point you are doing interfacey stuff into a computer rather than. So it's basically whatever you're hearing is what, on headphones or speakers off your computer.
All through my monitors.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So it sounds like you need to get a cab.
Yeah.
You've got a cab. Have you got a cab?
Oh fuck! I don't want to go and buy one. So the whole idea of having the Oxbox is that you didn't have to have bloody 4x12 cabs in my man cave and blow the roof off.
Upset the entire rest of the family. You turn it up to 7 and go bang.
That's why you got rid of your Marshall, your Hi-Wop, because you couldn't.
Yeah, see, Hack is saying it sounds great through a cab.
Okay.
So what we're saying is that actually that what we started off, that what you've recording it via the Oxbox is a completely different skill set. What door you're putting it into? Let's see. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Dubious, but that a few 412 should solve the problem. I agree, Gary. He needs a bank of 412s, doesn't he? It's just one. It's not cutting it at all, Hack. Andrew, you need a whole bloody lot. You need half a dozen at least. 412 cabs. One more.
He only had 412 cabs when he was with Cream. I only need 4, Simon.
You don't need 4. You mean what's good enough for Eric is good enough for me?
Okay, I think Hack has hit the nail on the head. I may
use the speaker tomorrow. Combo. Can you plug it into your Fender?
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a bloody. Right, okay. I'll do that tomorrow.
Well, I suppose the separate question is then how do you record it or get it so that in recording. Well, you'll go test it out and see whether that's the sound you like the best. But
well to record when I record anything, actually, thanks guys. You guys are legends. Because I've got one of 3 choices: get rid of it, buy a cab, or try it through my Fender speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, there's a slight difficulty. You don't know what speaker that is in your Fender.
It's two. It's a two. They are 210s, and I don't know what they are. Jansons, I think.
Are they Jansons? Not Celestian Greenbacks?
No.
Greenbacks, but whatever that means.
No.
See, I've been
Part of the
watching
Holy Grail.
too much of bloody Shane. I've been watching.
Yeah,
Greenbacks. Things. It comes with a speaker. Speaker work.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So Hack uses an SM57 on the cab to record it.
Yeah. Well.
So he's
Yeah.
gonna, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I would normally do. Just record straight off there. But you can't go wrong.
No.
Good to see you, Hack.
But obviously, in that case, what we're saying is that the Oxbox and the Oxbox software is quite a lot more tricky than we think it might be. It's not just a question of set up with a SM57 and a virtual 412 cab, and because that doesn't seem like that it produces what you were expecting, what you like.
Oh, look, Simon, I think basically it's a matter of, like a lot of things, you have to sit down and spend time. You have to go through it. You can't bloody do it in a couple of weekends. You just
you've got to get into it. Yeah. Maybe, well, Hitler Hack says, try the Origin through some vintage 30s. You'll love it.
I've tried it through the vintage 30 stacks. Cabinets on the update in here, and that's probably the closest that I'm getting. Look, Simon, Hack.
How much? And then so it goes through your Oxbox and it goes into a DAW, does it? So what are you using on the computer to record it, play it, whatever?
No, it goes straight from this through to my monitors.
Right.
Through my monitors.
So where do you set up the cab simulation?
In the software
that's
from
controlling the Oxbox. So you just control it. Yeah.
But so hackers, yeah. Look. I suppose the point that I'm trying to get across, and we're all like this, is you hear a sound that. And in fact, Simon, you mentioned it as a breakthrough a couple of shows ago when we were talking about Clapton and the Blues Breakers. Guys were hearing for the first time a sound live that they were hearing off the record, and they were going to the record shops, to the music shops, and buying some gear because they wanted to sound like that. I'm just doing the same thing.
Just doing the same thing, see. And I think you're right that it is that, isn't it? It is that thing about now. I think probably that Bluesbreaker album is probably the first time where there was and they made a conscious effort, didn't they, by placing the microphone 15 feet back from the speaker, so that Eric's idea was that Eric's idea was that you would hear you put it where the audience was, wasn't it? And you put it where the audience member was going to be 15 feet away from you, and you recorded that because that was a much truer to the live sound that he was getting at the time. And I think that I couldn't agree more, Hack. But I've not done really any experimentation with Ox boxes and stuff like that. But I imagine it's a whole other set of skills to understand how to work properly. As soon as you've got what cabs am I choosing, then what microphone locations am I using, what microphones am I using, and I've not done any of that, and I've no idea how it works. So, but I don't know how then what you're playing it out of, into your monitors of your computer. Do you put it into a DAW first and then play it out through the DAW? There's all those, all those variables, and all of a sudden you've got a load of variables there, haven't you? You've got what your computer speakers sound like, which are nothing like vintage 30s. So is it that do you have a break? I'm just pointing out there's lots of different. There's so many links in the chain, but to make them all function in the same way as that Marshall JCM45 did, JTM45.
I think what we're getting into this yin and yang, this dovetail argument, Simon. It doesn't matter how good amp modeling gets, and shit, it's getting pretty good. You know, you and I and Great Vanzini spoke about it the last time, or I think a couple of previous shows with Great Vanzini, when I said that I had, you know, that Vox VT modeling amp about 10, 15 years ago, and you know, that was the bee's knees. But they weren't very, you know, now it's not that good. But if you have a look at some of the modeling stuff that's coming through now, the Helix, some of it's very good. But at the end of the day,
Helix, isn't he?
But at the end of the day, you know, Hack is saying something that we all are true to. You can't beat a cabinet
With it,
or a
moving
combo,
air, a real
moving
cabinet,
air.
moving air. Yeah, and I agree. Hack, are you having trouble doing what we're talking about? I.e., trying to get the sounds that you hear when you play your Les Paul through your Marshall Origin.
Yeah.
Are you having trouble getting that? Listen to it in your computer, because I think, via your computer on your, because that's the next set of problem, isn't it? You know, if you're not playing a real amp, you're playing an amp synth amp. Then how does it perform when playing it either in headphones, good headphones, or speakers? You know, what speakers have you got set up? You know, do you go buy a set of bloody monitors? You know, studio monitors and stuff. I mean, it's seemingly it's an endless creative money making process for those people. Because then you want, that's it though, isn't it? You know, once you've got your speaker sim set up in your aux box, via iPad, what you're playing it out of needs to be able to replicate that sound, and is it that a pair of ordinary speakers that we all put on our computers that cost 20 quid or whatever, are they any good for doing that? The answer is probably not, because they're designed to play pop music and stuff, aren't they? Recording music and from Spotify. It sounds all right on that. Or the spoken word.
Oh, okay. So can I just interrupt here? So YouTube's parameters, or whatever it's, I don't know the term, the way it's set up, it's for more computer orientated music to sound better on playback as opposed to
live.
That
would make perfect sense. That actually, if you upload whatever, something that has been recorded in, what I think sounds to me like what we're talking about is we're saying, record it into a DAW first on your computer, not, and then EQ it and muck up, get the sound that you think, well, that sounds like that. Then and only then do you upload it to YouTube. So Hack says you can get a pretty good sound through the computer with the Helix. So that's interesting.
Well, who's that other Canadian dude that bloody does the Helix hour? What's his name?
Eric?
Eric. Okay, he sounds pretty good. Mind you, I've got to be fair though, Simon, I have to say this, high gainy kind of stuff through modeling amps always sounds pretty good. If you're going for a classic rock and roll sound, which is something that probably Hack is more involved with, like our perspective, it would probably take a little bit more tweaking and a little bit more experience, I would say.
I'd say that too. I think it's a completely different sound, isn't it? Because that older rock and roll style relies on space, it relies on cranking things, and it relies on, having that headroom to, to really drive an amp. Whereas I feel that, that as you write, the sort of very kind of driven, that very modern, distorted sound, it gets smoothed off, in a good way, all the pitch and all stuff, and actually that sounds really good, that you're getting in a sense, the natural compression to do that. Whereas because you're not doing that, you don't want that necessarily in the same way for something like you want to do. Classic blues rock sound is not that, is it? It's a Marshall turned up, quite a lot, and it's you know, and then it's got the room in which it breathes, you know, doesn't it? You know, propels the speakers. Whilst there will be some natural compression.
So Heck's using Tritone, Simon, mainly through his Helix as opposed to a lot of effects. But if you go, and this is no disrespect to Eric, because he's bloody good, you know, some of those Van Halen tones he gets, that's pretty authentic.
And he's worked it out, isn't he? In fairness to him, he's worked it out, and he's been doing that Helix out for ages, isn't he? I mean, you know,
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Simon. He's worked it out.
You know, and he's probably worked out that, as I say, that, you know, he will play Helix into his computer, and then he'll have it in his DAW, and then he'll be going out of his computer to you know, to YouTube or live or whatever you're doing. Yeah. Whereas you know, what you're doing is playing in the room, and then whatever, you know, using your microphone or whatever to pick it up, and or, you know, through the aux box. I mean, that without the next step in the chain, i.e. the DAW bit, so that you can, you know, graphic equalize your sound, and at least you can, you know, add a bit, take away a bit, kind of, you know, that the sound that you heard, if you just, you know, is not the same. What you know, the attempt, you know, Eric's attempt, anybody's attempt, you know, these things is to get the sound of Eddie Van Halen, but over on YouTube. And that sounds to me, my conclusion is that sounds like it's quite an art. You know? And you've got to have all these things in place, you know, that you know, Rabir is, you know, I mean, Rabir sounded fantastic on his live streams, but he's using Apollo Audio Twins, and he's got the new, I think whatever he's using a DAW, and you know, he's got mixing things going on and all sorts of stuff going on there.
He's got the new Luna 2.
Yeah, you know, he's got Luna 2, yeah, and all of that stuff. And you know, and obviously, and he knows how to use them because he spent a lot of time, you know, working out how to use them, you know, and how to get a really good sound live on the internet. And I think, like most things, you know, what we're saying is that's quite an art. That's quite, you know, requires some time to do, requires some, you know, to work out, and some testing, you know, what actually does sound good, you know, and you know, and it's the next step. And you know, people like Pete Thorne and, you know, Hack and all those guys who, you know that, you know, that's your that's how, you know, that pedal show and all those guys. I mean, that pedal show, you know, have all manner of, you know, they have a room mic and they have mics on the amps, and, you know, and they go in, you know, the guy, is it Simon? I think, you know, he does loads of work on those things, doesn't he? You know, I mean, you know, loads of production work to get them to sound like they sounded like in the room, so that when you listen to a pedal that they're using, you know, whether it's the Gladio or whatever, you know, that you're getting, you know, a pretty good approximation of that sound when you're listening to it on YouTube, you know, you know, you know, even put it through your stereo, which isn't a bad idea, but I agree that it's you know, it's trying to I think Great Vanzini, I think that's Johnny Bean's thing. Great Vanzini saying that he was trying to learn Streamlabs earlier. It seems to have a better tone for live on YouTube compared to StreamYards. I think, does Johnny use Streamlabs? I think Johnny uses Streamlabs.
Well, it depends.
I don't think he uses StreamYards on his own, does he? When he's on his own, that massive, his cathedral sound.
When he's doing that late night jamming, that spacey stuff, that's definitely through Streamlabs. Definitely. So great. It's not through StreamYards.
No.
But there was one thing, though, that I remember a few years ago, before Shane moved to his new location, he did a video, and we've probably all seen it, of how he sets up his studio with his, like you were saying before, Simon, with the speaker there.
Yeah.
Microphone here, mic there, you know, to try and get the best into what he was trying. So you got to take your hat off to these guys, and I suppose it's a little bit like Hack too, because he does a lot. I suppose we could be asking Hack, how much work do you go through, Hack, in post editing and pre-production for some of the music clips that you load up. Yeah.
Because our assumption, Hack, is that what those guys are doing is they are having to tweak what their recorded sound is to make it sound like what it sounded like in the room. So that you go, so that when I listen to it on my YouTube, that what I'm getting is an approximation, at least, of what I heard, what they heard in the room. Now, that and we're all in dangerous territory here for all post-production, all they're fixing it in post-production. I don't think that's true at all. I think that what you're doing is, if you're trying to make it sound like what it sounded like in the room, that's going to require some tweaking, as you've discovered. That what you hear in the room, or what you hear, is not what you put on YouTube by distance. Then you've got to represent the product, whatever you're using, in a way that what it sounds like to you in the room. I think that's entirely fair. That I think that's really interesting, actually. that you have to tweak it to get it to sound like it does in the room. And that does require some post-production work. Yeah, and I think it's just Streamlabs. Do you download Streamlabs? Is it more like an app, Streamlabs? I have a feeling it is, isn't it? So, and in effect, what we're saying at StreamYard, of course, is no app. You're just linking to a central point on the web where it processes all the sound and all the pictures and all of that. Now, obviously, as soon as you start going across the internet, you're going to get compression on you, because you're not, and you're going to get a change. So before it arrives even at StreamYards. So it would seem to me that what Johnny is, that StreamYards is not great for live playing, really.
Okay, I'll ask you guys a question. So do you guys remember in the bad old days when you were listening to vinyl? And do you guys remember when the bullshit came out and they told you that these CDs that were going to come along, they were going to replicate the sound like, you were there in the studio. You were going to hear it, Simon. And then when you brought the CDs and you plugged it, inserted it into the machine, and you're sitting there and you're going, this ain't Led Zeppelin 1. This ain't Led Zeppelin 1.
Yeah, I think because what they discovered was that it's not just a question of transferring the recorded sound from one medium to the next. You had to do stuff to it. If you recorded something like, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, sounded fantastic on CD, still does, because it was recorded with CD in mind.
Ah.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones where I think I'm right about it, that and it had that sound in it, and they right, a tweak first to get a tone I like, then I record direct into my mixer on Audacity. Oh, okay, he records into Audacity.
And you're happy with sorry, Simon, for interrupting, but so are you happy then, Simon, with what you're hearing, and then you upload onto YouTube, and then when you hear what you've uploaded on YouTube just through your monitors or whatever, are you happy with that sound, with that tone?
But I think that's what he's talking about. He's saying that he tweaks the tone through his mixer and on his thing, on his guitars, everything. He tweaks the sound so that it's happy, that when he's listening to it on, digitally, whatever, then that's fine. And then he uploads it. He records it into Audacity when he's happy with that sound.
Oh, okay, so the tweaking is the YouTube tweaking. The tweaking that he's doing is for
YouTube. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Audacity's not particularly for Audacity's just. I presume you've come across Audacity, have you?
Yeah. It's
just a way of recording stuff on your computer. Whatever gets played on a computer, I've recorded loads of stuff on it. But yeah, so yes. So he does all his work there before it gets to Audacity, gets the tone he likes. When the tone he likes, then records it in Audacity, and then obviously you can MP3 it or whatever, or synchronize it with his video, and then upload it to YouTube.
and when you hear it back from YouTube, heck, you're hearing what you want. You, the point that I made earlier on before you jumped in is I had something on a program earlier today, and it sounded nothing like what I was playing. So
I suppose
it's
it's the
tweaking.
question to hack. The question to hack is: Are you? So you dial up a lead tone. Are you dialing up? So if you're doing something like that, are you saying? Are you trying to replicate what you hear in the room, or are you dialing up a tone you like? By the way, either's fine. By the way, it's not an issue. But that's the thing, is it? Are you dialing up a tone you like? Not necessarily the same that's in the room, because you understand there's a recording medium and a whole lot of all that stuff going on in the middle.
A classic example might be, for example, in your live sound, you might have no bass at all. You might cut the bass out completely.
Yeah.
And when you're recording and uploading that onto YouTube, it sounds like a piece of shit. So what you'll have to do is you'd put the bass on 10 to have some kind of bass coming through.
Yeah, precisely. So in effect, you are tweaking your live sound so that it sounds good in your recorded medium.
Yeah.
Which is, as I say, we're getting into it now. This is really interesting to me. So whether you're dialing in a tone electronically, so to speak, that sounds like the tone I've got in the room,
Sure.
So when I play it, is that sound like, or are you saying? And I think what he's saying is he dials up a tone that works with the music. So not necessarily what he's hearing live. And then he plays along, which I think is, that's fine. That works, for me. But in a sense, that is not a demo, though, is it? I mean, that's playing along, jamming along with the, if you're doing a demo of something, do you try and replicate the sound that you're hearing in the room recorded, or do you go for a tone? If that makes any sense. I don't know if it does. No, but it's trying to work out. The interesting part of it is trying to work out what people do, isn't it? How do people approach this? Are they trying to dial up what they hear in the room and do a proper recording like that, or are they getting some nice tones and doing stuff? But on the recorded side, and I think what you've discovered is that dialing in a tone electronic, with your software and stuff, that replicates what you hear is more difficult than you thought. Because there's so many links in the chain, to get you to, so you've got the guitar and the amp, and then you've got the aux box, the software that sets it up. Then you've got the interface, then you've got StreamYard, and they're all doing something to the tone. Never mind true bypass. None of that's true bypass, is it? Not by some bloody distance, but. But
I'll certainly take the advice of Hack, and I didn't think about that. I will take a lead from here and put it into the speakers into here, and then see what I hear.
So Hack is saying if he's doing a pedal, sorry, Hack, we're making you type. If I'm doing a pedal, it makes more sense to mic the cabs for sound. Mic, not much. Yeah. So, but after you've done that, Hack, are you then trying to replicate what you hear live in the recorded sound? So when you play back Audacity, the thing you record in Audacity, are you saying that sounds like what I'm hearing in the in the room? I think that's probably my question. Yes, great, Vangelis. You see, you can muck up, you found a good tone, mic'd it from a cab that sounds good, usually sounds good. Once I record it to my DAW, of course, you can mess about with it more in your DAW, and that thing about, obviously using something like Luna or whatever, or I don't know, whatever those other things are called, Logic Pro, whatever, is it Logic Pro? That obviously you can add all sorts of things. Andrew, anything will sound like crap on StreamYards. There we are. Yeah, I think we've discovered that Hack, is that
Okay.
that although we did have,
So we're getting to a stage here where we're not just bloody guitar players anymore, Simon. We're
technicians.
sound engineers as well, because you got to sit there with your DAW, your DAW, and fiddle about with the controls. You've got to do a Ted Templeton or
The
George
interesting part
Martin.
is, I'll tell you what you've got to be. I've got a better. You've got to be Jimmy Page. Actually, you've got to be Jimmy Page,
He was recording
the
John Mayall
master
yes.
of, I know how to play the guitar,
Yes.
apparently, really well, but I also know how to record things, So I've heard apparently he's quite good. He's, got something, but he's onto something. But do you know what I mean? That he learnt, about spacing the mic, putting the mic in a using a little Super Pro 15-watt amp to record a lot of stuff, not your, but also playing in the room with the guys and then tweak, different sounds, putting different guitar things together. Have you watched that Rick Beato, What Makes His Song So Great?
I saw it come up on my feed.
Led Zeppelin, yeah. Well, it got blocked to start with. It got blocked to start with. So he put it out on Instagram, and then he got unblocked for some reason. I don't know what happened, but
okay, I'll better check it out.
Oh, I see. So Hack just record. So Hack, but when you listen to it back in Audacity, Hack, are you kind of saying that's what I'm hearing in the room, and therefore it's replicating what I've recorded is a replication of the sound I've got? Because my guess is that you have to tweak your recorded sound as you're going in so that it sounds like what you've got in the room. Am I right or wrong? I have no idea. But going back to Jimmy Page, Jimmy Page learned all of that stuff, didn't he? How to record, and those Led Zeppelin records sound great, and all those different parts that he puts on, with a bit of fuzz here and a bit of whatever, got much in the way of massive effects in 67, 68. And yet, Rick Beato thinks well worth a look, just for the simple going through the different parts, what the different guitars are playing, and all of those things. It's fantastic.
I just read a piece a couple of days ago, Simon, where they were talking about Jimmy Page, and they were saying that we can't underestimate the role of Jimmy Page as a guitar player and as a producer when he went and did this wonderful stuff with Led Zeppelin, because that I'm Your Witch Doctor and Telephone Blues that he recorded with John Mayall and Eric Clapton in 1965 or 66, what was instrumental in him creating that blues rock sound.
The room doesn't come into it because he's recording direct. Oh, okay, fair enough. So you're taking a direct out. Okay.
It's okay, we can have conversations at once. It's okay, we're good at it.
You got multitasking on the internet. So Hack's saying he doesn't.
Okay, he's recording direct.
So he's recording direct. But if you said earlier on, Hack, but you said earlier on that if you're doing a pedal sound, for instance, then it makes more sense to mic the cab. So you're micing the cab, so you're getting a sound in the room, aren't you? Off the pedal, out of the cab. So are you then? I'm sorry to be getting particular now in a stupid way. Tell me to clear off. It's fine. Are you then tweaking that sound that when you play it back in Audacity, it sounds like what you've got mic'd in the room, or are you just going for a good sound? That close enough, but not worried about that so much. But you're right. I don't think anybody can underestimate the way what Jimmy Page learnt in all those sessions he did. And as we've talked about on here, that age of experimentation, but also the age of constraint. The constraints you had. I was watching some things about Jeff Emerick and talking about recording the Beatles. And one of the things that Rick Beato says in his thing is the same thing, is that the constraints that Led Zeppelin had, 8 tracks. They had 8 tracks. They didn't have 24. He said 24 tracks don't make it any better.
No.
What you have is each of the things can occupy a space of its own, and how it works in that space. The voice, the basic, and they've got a bigger space. If you've got 24 tracks, you get to the you get to what's he called? You get to the stage, that recording each individual string of a chord.
Yeah.
Which is what's he called? The producer of Def Leppard, Robert John Muttlang. He had them playing individual strings, didn't he? And then so that it fits into. I've got 2 guitars, I've got drum, and I've got multi-track guitars and all this stuff. I've got loads of guitars going on, all sorts of stuff. And what you're doing is you're squeezing each of those sounds down into smaller spaces because you've got so many of them, or you're duplicating them, or you're doing whatever, And it's like he didn't have that, so he couldn't do dozens of guitar tracks and dozens. Later on they could, but and he made use of that kind of guitar orchestra thing. But those early things are so he's just going for a good sound. He doesn't have the skills to be rusty. Okay, yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? It kind of, So I take my hat off to those guys. I'm talking to Jeff Herrick and the other guy. I can't remember his name. So great, talking about putting a mic in the air vent underneath the floor to get a bit more kind of weird echo sounds and stuff like that. It's like because you didn't have 1,000 reverb things. You had to go and make your own stuff.
Well, the producer from Tom Petty, when they were recording Damn the Torpedoes, they lifted the drums. They built a platform for the drums to get the drums higher off the ground, Simon. So
what's he called?
his
name. What's his name?
Yakos. Yeah.
No,
the drummer.
The producer.
Oh, he was on. Yeah.
Him.
Yeah.
Did Bruce Springsteen as well? Did Born to Run as well? Engineered it.
But,
so come back to me in a minute. Don't worry.
Jimmy Iovine.
Jimmy Iovine. That's right. Thank you. Yes.
so that. And that kind of, I suppose because we're all guitar players and rock and rollers, and more than that though, I don't want to be super technical, Simon, but I'm interested in how some of my favorite recordings were recorded. I'm interested in that Simon said, look, we're going to hang this amp outside the window and record it from outside the window. Yeah, I'm wow,
I know really, completely.
Simon, that's what you did. Yeah. Because that was the sound that I was hearing, Andrew.
Yeah, well, no, completely, hanging microphones over the balconies and having a Binson echo rector. It's like, come on, but that's about having, that I'm talking about, the ocean, obviously with John Bonham, that doom, bam, 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 fantastic sound, created by hanging microphones over the hallway, setting up his drums in the hallway.
Do you reckon that's one of the best drum tracks in the world?
Yeah. That's it's an amazing sound, isn't it? I mean, it's a unique and amazing sound of how to record drums. Astonishing.
Look, we're going to have to do another Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin show. I think we've only done one.
There's so much, isn't there? And we've not done anything about Jeff Beck. Come on. In the great the Holy Trinity of Clapton, Beck, and Page.
It does. So whose idea was it to do that with the recording for Led Zeppelin to hang the microphones? Do you know? I don't know that.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll go and have a look, investigate, but and to see whose idea it was. But the point about that is really not whose idea it was. The point about it was that when they recorded it, they're still only on 8-track recording, but somebody they had it's like somebody's gone out in that hallway in that old Headley Grange and gone, great natural reverb in here. What can we do? And sorry, set up some drums in here. We'll hit a few. You see what happens, and we'll then put a Binson echo rec on it to give me that doom, 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 that echo thing to give it more. Quite easily, Eddie Kramer could easily have been Eddie Kramer. Jimmy Page, or a combination of people setting up, when they were doing it off the Stones mobile thing.
So
Glenn Johns,
that song,
is it Glenn Johns, Andy Johns?
Holly, isn't it? The Ocean. Is it on Houses of Holly?
No, it's on Led Zeppelin 4.
Led Zeppelin 4. Okay, sorry. So Zevon would record many lead tracks and take snippets of each one to construct the final. That's Warren Zevon, obviously.
I presume to his credit, you see, take many lead tracks, take snippets, cut them out and plug them in and stuff like that, and it kind of.
Wow.
Whereas, it's, if you're going to do that, you're going to cut out bits of tape and stick them in. You don't do that too well. You could do it a lot, but it would take you a lot of time to do. But I think, see, people like Jimmy Page wouldn't do that. They just. That's slightly OCD. Yeah. That's mad, actually. Once recorded air, put a mic outside. Oh, probably, yes. Because that's the 60s, isn't it, Arvin? Man, the 60s, when recording air was the thing you did. But, recording the room and all of those things, were things and continue to be things, don't they?
Labor intensive to the max, you bet, man.
God, yeah.
You bet.
But in a sense, if you've got 48 tracks, there's a kind of irresistible urge to use 48 tracks, isn't there? Whereas Jimmy Page, what did he do for Stairway to Heaven? He recorded 3 solos. Ran it through 3 times. Chose the best one. Yep. Thank you very much. That one will do. And that's what we hear, the classic one.
Yep.
Until those things, choice is a good idea. I've got the deluxe version of Deep Purple's Machine Head.
Wow.
And what it's got, one of the other disc on it is alternative mixes, right? Alternative takes of the songs, right? And you know what? They're not as good. They aren't. They aren't as good. You could see, you play the other ones, you play it and you go, oh, all right. Yeah, I see why they chose that, because it's better. Objectively, after. Slightly.
Wow.
Yeah, this is actually better. And you go, well, they chose the right track then, didn't they? They chose the right one to do it. The right guitar tracks to, whatever. So I think that some of those things is about, as I say, you do it 3 times, which is probably all you can do, all the space you're allowed, and you keep the one that's the best one. And that's the one you go with. And you don't have that, right, boys, right, get an A chord, right, I want you to play the A string for the next 10, dun, 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 and then I want you to play the E string, and it's bloody Nora,
I mean, I couldn't do that. You and I wouldn't be friends after a day of me
20 minutes.
I just know what I know the guy that I am. Yeah, I
agree. Feel over technique. Is it technically, that it's options paralysis, isn't it? I always say that, because I've worked in IT for a long time. I always say to me, computers don't cut down the amount of time it takes you to do something. What they do is give you 1,000 options to do it, rather than a pair of scissors and a pen gives you very few options about what so we can fucking write and then cut up, stick about together with sellotape. You've only got a tiny amount of options to do, so you've got to concentrate on what you're writing. Whereas a computer, you can write it and then you can rewrite it. You can rewrite it and then you can change it around. And you can and you can change the font, whatever. And it takes just as much time, but messing about with with options paralysis. You've got so many options, you feel the need to use all the options. Whereas, frankly, you put a microphone in front of a guitar amp, turn it up, Mr. Clapton, stick it over there. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Off you go. Bang. And
that's basically a live album. That album. It's basically a live album, Simon.
But if you think about all those albums they made are basically live. All those early Beatles records are, the first one is 2 8-hour sessions, I think,
It's Zeppelin 1.
The first is 3 8-hour sessions, Yeah, so you go and you're basically playing everything live, maybe overdub a guitar solo, but pretty much.
Here's Hack. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Hack, thank you very much. Sleep
Thank you,
very
buddy.
well. And thanks for the info. It's been really cool. Good work.
Absolutely. Oh, we're going to be knocking off soon. Oh, before we knock off, Simon. So Great Vanzini's on with us. When's Great Vanzini on with us?
Is it Sunday?
Sunday. Yeah.
Did you say Sunday?
Great Vanzini. You're in.
You cool with it?
Yeah.
You cool with Sunday?
Yeah. Before I forget.
You see, handwrite progress notes in way less time I could on a computer. Nobody cod read them, but it was fussy. My Great Vanzini, I couldn't have put it better myself. Nobody could read them, but having technology prices. And I've always been a believer in whenever I've done any recording with Saturday night. That's right. Sunday morning for me. Great Vanzini. That's right. Saturday night for you. That just come back to this idea, that when we've recorded live as a band, whenever I've done band recordings, we've done all the basic tracks live. You go in, stand around, and count it off and play through. Yeah. And then you might go back and, you'll do the guitar solo separately and you'll do some backing vocals separately and maybe some tambourine or something, But the basic track is the 5 of you playing in the studio, together. And that forms the basis of the track.
Do you think that's one of the appeals then for jazz, just leading into our next program with Great Vanzini? That's because of improvisation,
Seamless.
You're not actually cutting up pieces of paper, Simon. In a way, you kind of are, but it's not manufactured. It's what do they call jazz? The complete American art form, or something like that.
Yeah. The great contemporary American art form. Yeah. And I think that I know that I've certainly read. I'm sure I've read this. Great Vanzini will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that a lot of later Miles Davis records, they recorded hours of stuff, and then Gil Evans or whoever the producer was would put it together and make a record out of it.
Quincy Jones did the same thing with them too. You're absolutely right. So they would record.
Quincy Jones, probably.
Yeah, they would record. You're absolutely right, Simon. Spend 4 hours recording, and Miles Davis would say that last hour was a motherfucker. And so, so the last hour, you'd listen to the last hour because he said it was a motherfucker. So that was a good thing. So you go and listen to the, but he was spontaneous like that, which obviously, when you kind of consider what these jazz guys are, that's probably what they are. That's just what they do, Simon. They just get up and
channel it. Yeah. Oh, and I think that's right. And I think that, jazz is predicated on that, isn't it? These, for the last, that great, when you get out of the big band era and into the bebop era, what you're getting is into the improvisation era. I think a bit before Louis Armstrong did some sort, but that's the great, the start of the great improvisation, and they carried on, improvising, and jazz has become the great improvising art form, hasn't it? That. With avant-garde jazz or whatever, making, and stretching it as far as you can go, with noises.
They stretch Ornette Coleman. Man, they stretch it, man, to the point where it's Simon.
Pharaoh Saunders. Your go.
Mate, I just can't dig it, Simon. I just don't dig it.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I like a bit of melody. I'm like my dad. Yep. I like a bit of a tune, man.
Oh, look, and I have to pass on a nice comment too before we go.
Look who's turned up, Mr. Bean. Good morning, Johnny. How you doing? What's great? We're talking about jazz.
Oh yeah, we were talking about you earlier today too on another stream, Johnny. But I have to tell you, Simon, that Kubrick Lover said that he's been listening to your dad's compositions and he's blown away by it.
Really? Did he? When you said it earlier? Oh, that's
earlier. But he was he's in another stream. But
I'll have a look. Yeah.
And Johnny, we were talking about you.
Sometimes you don't get the chat, do you? You don't get the chat.
No, because I had to edit it. But Johnny,
I
I was having a chat with Ben Coombs earlier, and we were tracing our pedigree back to you, being the granddaddy of us all. Simon and I and everyone in this chat all met because of you.
Yeah, look what you've done, Johnny. Look what you spawned.
Look at your children.
You've spawned multitudes of madness.
No, we enjoy your stuff, man.
No,
Your
it's really
stuff's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Stuff you're doing with Rob lately, that's fantastic too.
Yeah, I'm
him.
halfway through the Rob sessions.
Oh, he's awesome, man.
He's
That
great,
guy's
Rob. I love Rob. He's a
Van Halen
fantastic
nut, man.
talker. He's a fantastic talker as well. He's got everything going on, isn't he? Just goes off.
But the only problem is, though, Johnny, you haven't given me that dedicated balance era program. Every time you guys talk about balance, you talk about it for about 5 minutes, and then someone jumps in the chat and takes you guys 50 miles away, and I'm going, where's this balance era show, Johnny?
Are you suggesting, by some chance, that Mr. Bean gets dragged off on tangents?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that happening at all. Your trouble, Johnny, is you start off not on a tangent. If you start off on a tangent, then you're good. Then we're all good. Like me and Andrew start off on a tangent and go off from that. Oh, look at that!
Rob.
Oh, Arvin, thank you very much. The landscape as well. Did you? Wow. Keep saying he already did one. Tell him his memory is faulty. Yeah, do another one properly this time, not 5 minutes. I mean, we are. I'll make sure we do a strict. But yes, you've got to be strict with Rob. That's hard work. I give you that. Controlling Rob, hard work. But Arvin, thank you very much for that. See, Arvin's listening to it too. That's very cool. It's
awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
What you have to do though, Johnny, is you have to prepare for next year, because next year is the 30th anniversary of the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge record. So you'll have to do a couple of shows on that album, because that was an important album. Right. So you can't just do that in 10 minutes.
Oh, it's on YouTube, Arvin. We'll be making millions off of that. That's my retirement fund.
It's on Spotify too.
It's on Spotify. Of course it is. Yeah.
I was listening to it. I was listening to it too.
Good. Did you think it was all right, or did you think it was rubbish?
Well, I used to listen to it when I was about 13 years old, when we used to hear on
the telly, without realising that one day
I was going to meet the son of the dude that's doing that freaky kind of sound.
Yeah. I'll make $1 million. Yes. It's only Arvin. It's only a question of when. How many million years is it going to take to make me? It's going to take 1 million years to make $1 million. I'll probably get £1 or £2 out of it. It's like I don't think that's happening very much. I hope it keeps my mum in wine. That would be good. She gets a few quid off it, which is good. Keeps her entertaining.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks for the kind words,
guys. Yeah, Johnny, thanks for popping in. We were discussing you earlier on getting a live playing on the internet. I'll have to plague you a bit more for that on the next one, on the one after.
Yeah. All right.
And we're on Sunday morning for me with the Great Vanzini.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, which will be fantastic.
Is there anything that we need to do in preparation for that Great Vanzini? You're going to continue talking about... I don't think you gave us all your jazz stories.
It is, Johnny. It's daytime for me. It's 8:22 in the morning. Oh, Fenders, what's it? 9:22 in New Zealand.
7:22.
7:22 in New Zealand, and 8:22 here. I've got to be at work technically in 8 minutes. Technically.
Now, appreciate you popping in, Johnny, and we look forward to you continuing your shows. Are hilarious.
Yeah, brilliant. The John Mancuda show. Did John Mancuda and Neanderthal. Do you see that? Do you see that the Star Wars thing they did where they were doing this Jew riffing
Yes.
thing? Oh
Jews,
God, I
Jew,
was in hysterics
Jews
about
and
that.
Star Wars.
Oh
They
man,
did that really well.
I was in hysterics about that. It
Yeah.
was really, really funny. Really funny. I laughed my head off doing that. It's just brilliant, brilliant.
5
God,
hours of mayhem.
Those two riffing off on that. Well, you know, it's in a sense you could make, you know, what we talked about earlier, that jazz thing. You know, you record 5 hours and you get there's like the absolute gem 20 minutes in the middle. You know, you cut that out and make that into a sort of 20-minute thing. You know.
Well,
There
do
are,
you know
Johnny,
the reason why they're so good? Because they've been brought up on English comedy. That's why.
Well, they talked about that, didn't they? They talked about all those
Yes.
English comedy things like Monty Python and and the goodies and things. Yeah, absolutely. They did talk about that. You know, John was saying they ran through a litany of the British comedy people. Oh, Johnny, well done. Yeah. Get some guests on and stuff like that. That'd be cool. We look forward to them, Johnny. I watch them all.
Awesome.
I like
them
a lot.
Okay, we got to split because we got some things to do. So we'll catch you guys later.
I've got a day's work to do. 6 minutes. Just enough time to boot up my computer for work. Take care, everyone in the chat. Thanks, Johnny. Great Vanzini. Arvon. Who did we have? Guitar Hack earlier. Fast asleep now. Anyone else? Just checking. I think that was it for today. So yes, thanks all for dropping by and being part of it. It's fantastic. Been really good fun.
Awesome.
And we'll be elbowing Johnny out of the way on Sunday morning. John BL's show.
See you later.
That's fine. All right. See you later, guys. Take care.